I don't care what the brass thinks. This is my operation, and you have no authority here.
She arrived at the base quietly, dressed like any ordinary visitor. No one knew who she really was. No one knew she held the power to fire everyone in the room. But one soldier made a mistake. He looked at her and saw only a nuisance. He spoke to her without respect, and that single moment changed everything. The black sedan moved slowly down the main access road of Fort Greystone. It was an unmarked car, standard government issue, blending perfectly with the gravel dust and the heat shimmering off the tarmac. There were no flags on the hood. There were no flashing lights. To the gate guards who checked the identification, the passenger was simply listed as a civilian consultant named E. Vance, arriving for a scheduled infrastructure audit. The guards waved the car through without a second glance. They didn't salute, they didn't stiffen their posture, they simply did their job, bored by the relentless afternoon sun, assuming this was just another bureaucrat coming to count boxes and check inventory lists. They had no idea that the woman sitting in the back seat, looking out the window with calm gray eyes, held the power to reshape the entire future of this installation. They had no idea that the consultant was actually Major General Elena Vance, the newly appointed Director of Logistics and Readiness for the entire region. She had chosen to arrive this way for a reason. General Vance did not believe in parades. She did not believe in rehearsed inspections where floors were scrubbed only minutes before a general walked in and soldiers were terrified into temporary discipline. She believed that the truth of a unit was found in the quiet moments. It was found in how soldiers treated people they thought didn't matter. She stepped out of the car near the primary logistics warehouse. She wore a simple gray business suit, practical shoes, and carried a plain clipboard. She told her driver to wait. "I'll walk from here," she said. Her voice was low, steady, and carried an edge of authority that only decades of command can forge, though she kept it hidden beneath a polite demeanor. As she walked toward the warehouse, the wind kicked up dust around her boots. She wasn't looking for shine. She wasn't looking for perfection. She was looking for character. And in less than an hour, she would find exactly what she was looking for, in a way one captain would never forget. Before we step inside the warehouse and witness the confrontation that changed a career, I want to ask you, where are you watching from today? Drop your country or state in the comments below. And if you believe that true leadership is about how you treat people when no one is watching, please subscribe to Military Stories. We bring you real, grounded stories of discipline and honor every day. Fort Greystone was a working base. It wasn't a show pony. It was the beating heart of the supply chain for 3 different combat divisions. Day and night, heavy transport trucks rumbled in and out of the main gates. Forklifts whined in the warehouses, reversing alarms beeping in a constant, discordant symphony. Pallets of ammunition, medical supplies, spare parts, and rations were shifted, tracked, and shipped with industrial speed. The atmosphere was one of high pressure and higher stakes. In a place like this, efficiency was God. If a shipment was late, a unit downrange didn't eat, or a tank didn't run. The soldiers who worked here took pride in that speed. They wore their exhaustion like a badge of honor. But sometimes, when efficiency becomes the only goal, other things begin to slip. Courtesy, patience, the basic respect for anyone who isn't directly helping you move a box from point A to point B. Captain Marcus Thorne was the officer in charge of Warehouse 4, the largest distribution hub on the base. Thorne was 32 years old, fit, sharp-featured, and undeniably competent. He could look at a manifest and tell you within seconds if the weight distribution was off. He could coordinate 20 trucks simultaneously without breaking a sweat. His superiors loved him because he got results. His numbers were always green, his timelines were always met. But Captain Thorne had a flaw. It was a flaw that often comes to capable men who are told too often how good they are. He had begun to believe that his rank and his results made him untouchable. He had begun to view anyone outside his immediate chain of command as an obstacle. To Thorne, if you weren't moving cargo, you were just in the way. On this particular Tuesday, the heat inside Warehouse 4 was stifling. The industrial fans were churning the hot air rather than cooling it. Thorne was standing on the loading dock, reviewing a load plan on a tablet, wiping sweat from his forehead. He was already annoyed. A truck was 10 minutes late, and a forklift had blown a hydraulic line in aisle 3. "Get that fluid cleaned up," Thorne barked at a group of privates. "I don't care if you have to use your own toothbrushes. Get this floor dry and get that lift moving. We are on a schedule." The soldiers scrambled. They didn't salute, they just moved. They knew Thorne's temper. They knew that in Thorne's world, explanations were just excuses.
It was into this chaotic, high-stress environment that the woman in the gray suit walked. Elena Vance entered through the side door. She paused for a moment, letting her eyes adjust from the bright sunlight to the dim, cavernous interior of the warehouse. She watched the movement. She saw the hustle. She noted the safety gear. Most of it was being worn, though she spotted 2 soldiers with unbuckled helmets. She didn't say anything. She just made a small mental note. She began to walk down the main aisle, staying well within the yellow safety lines. She moved with a slow, deliberate pace. She wasn't hiding, but she wasn't announcing herself either. She looked like exactly what her cover story claimed: an auditor, someone there to check paperwork, someone boring. As she passed a group of specialists sorting medical kits, she paused. "Excuse me," she said gently. One of the specialists, a young woman with grease on her cheek, looked up. She looked tired. "Yes, ma'am?" "I'm looking for the shift supervisor. I have some questions about the inventory tracking for the Class 8 medical supplies." The specialist pointed toward the loading dock. "Captain Thorne is on the dock, ma'am, but he's pretty busy right now. We're behind schedule." "I understand," Vance said. "Thank you." She noted the soldier's politeness. That was a good sign. The pressure hadn't crushed the basic decency out of the junior enlisted. Vance continued walking toward the dock. As she approached, she saw Captain Thorne. He was shouting instructions to a driver in the yard, his voice cutting over the roar of a diesel engine. He looked stressed. He looked commanding. He looked like a man who did not want to be interrupted. Vance waited. She stood quietly near a stack of crates, her hands clasped in front of her, holding her clipboard. She waited for Thorne to finish his conversation. She watched how he interacted with his team. He was decisive, yes, but he was also dismissive. He didn't say thank you. He didn't ask for input. He barked orders and turned away before the person could acknowledge them. Finally, Thorne turned around and saw her. He stopped. His eyes narrowed. He took in the gray suit, the clipboard, the quiet demeanor. He didn't see a general. He saw a civilian. He saw a bureaucrat. He saw a waste of his time. "Can I help you?" Thorne asked. He didn't come down from the dock. He stood above her, forcing her to look up. His tone wasn't hostile, but it was clipped, impatient. "Good afternoon, Captain," Vance said. Her voice was even. "My name is Vance. I'm conducting a review of the logistics protocols for the regional audit. I had a few questions about your outgoing shipment process."
Thorne let out a short, sharp sigh. He checked his watch. "Look, Miss Vance, is it? You picked a bad time. We have a convoy pushing out in 45 minutes and I'm down a forklift. I don't really have time to walk you through the basics of how a warehouse works." Vance didn't blink. She didn't stiffen. She just stood there, completely at ease. "I understand you're busy, Captain. I don't need a tour. I just need to verify how you're prioritizing the critical medical supplies versus the standard rations. I noticed some of the pallets in aisle 4 seem to be mixed." Thorne laughed, a dry, humorless sound. He stepped down from the dock, walking toward her, invading her personal space just slightly. It was an intimidation tactic, conscious or not. He was using his physical presence and his uniform to assert dominance over the civilian. "Mixed pallets are standard operating procedure for rapid deployment," Thorne said, speaking slowly as if to a child. "If you were familiar with active logistics, you'd know that. The computer sorts the priority. I just load the trucks. Now, if you want to audit the paperwork, the office is in the back. Go talk to the clerk. He loves paperwork. I have a job to do." He turned his back on her. He simply turned around and started walking away. It was a dismissal. It was rude. It was the kind of behavior that, in the civilian world, might get you reported to HR. In the military, from an officer to a civilian auditor, it was borderline dereliction of professional conduct. Vance didn't call him back. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't say, "Do you know who I am?" She simply watched him walk away. "Thank you for your time, Captain," she said to his back. Thorne waved a hand over his shoulder without looking. "Yeah, sure. Just stay behind the yellow lines, okay? I don't want to fill out an accident report." Vance watched him go. A small, unreadable expression crossed her face. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. She turned and walked back toward aisle 4. She needed to see more. She needed to see if this attitude was an isolated incident or if it was a poison that had infected the entire command. For the next hour, Vance moved through the warehouse. She became a ghost. She stood in shadows, observing. She watched how the sergeants talked to the privates. She watched how the privates talked to the drivers. She saw good things. She saw a staff sergeant stop to help a private lift a heavy box that was slipping. She saw a team working together to fix the broken forklift, sharing tools and communicating clearly. The rot hadn't spread everywhere. The foundation of the unit was still strong. It seemed the arrogance was concentrated at the top. But then she saw Thorne again. He was storming down the center aisle, followed by a young lieutenant. "I don't care what the regulations say about rest cycles," Thorne was saying, his voice echoing off the metal roof. "I want those drivers back in the trucks in 4 hours, not 8. If they have a problem with it, they can come talk to me." The lieutenant looked nervous. "Sir, that's a safety violation. If we cut their rest time and there's an accident—" "There won't be an accident if they pay attention," Thorne snapped. "We need these numbers up. Stop quoting the rule book and start moving metal. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir," the lieutenant whispered. Vance, standing behind a row of shelving units, heard every word. She took a pen from her pocket and made a precise note on her clipboard. Disregard for safety regulations, coercion of junior officers, prioritizing metrics over personnel welfare. This was no longer just about rudeness. This was about danger. As she finished writing, a soldier appeared around the corner. It was a sergeant major, an older man with graying hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent 30 years in the sun. He was carrying a clipboard of his own. He stopped when he saw Vance. He looked at her suit, he looked at her face, and then he looked at her posture. Most civilians stand in a specific way in a military warehouse, nervous, out of place, shrinking inward to avoid being in the way. Vance was standing with her feet shoulder-width apart. Her back was perfectly straight. Her head was up, scanning the environment. It was the stance of someone who owned the ground they stood on. The sergeant major narrowed his eyes. He had seen that stance before. He had seen it in the Pentagon. He had seen it in forward operating bases. It was the command stance. He walked over to her slowly. He didn't bark. He didn't dismiss her. "Can I help you find something, ma'am?" the sergeant major asked. His voice was respectful, probing. Vance looked at him. She saw the intelligence in his eyes. She knew that he knew, or at least that he suspected. "I'm just finishing my observations, Sergeant Major," she said. "Your team works hard." "They do," he replied. He glanced toward where Thorne had just stormed off. "They do the best they can with what they're given." It was a loaded sentence, with what they're given. He was protecting his soldiers, but he was acknowledging the leadership failure without saying a word of insubordination. Vance smiled slightly. "A good NCO protects the standard," she said softly. The sergeant major stiffened. That wasn't auditor talk. That was doctrine. "Ma'am," he said, lowering his voice, "is there anything you need to see specifically?" "No," Vance said. "I've seen enough. But tell me, Sergeant Major, does the captain always run the shifts this hot?" The sergeant major paused. He was walking a fine line. "Captain Thorne is very focused on the mission, ma'am. Sometimes the mission creates tunnel vision." "Tunnel vision causes accidents," Vance said, "and it causes good soldiers to burn out." She closed her clipboard. "There is an all-hands briefing scheduled for 1600 hours today at the base theater. Is that correct?" "Yes, ma'am. The brigade commander called it this morning, said there was a VIP visit." "I see," Vance said. "Make sure Captain Thorne is there.
and make sure he's in his Class A uniform." The sergeant major's eyes widened slightly. The pieces clicked into place. The VIP wasn't coming. The VIP was already here. "I will see to it personally, ma'am," he said. He didn't salute, that would blow at cover, but he nodded, a sharp, respectful dip of his chin. Vance walked out of the warehouse into the blinding afternoon sun. She had her data. Now she needed to deliver the lesson.
At 1545, the base theater was filling up. It was a large auditorium-style building used for briefings, ceremonies, and movie nights. The air conditioning was humming, a welcome relief from the heat outside. Hundreds of soldiers filed in, taking their seats. The mood was a mix of curiosity and annoyance. Mandatory assemblies were rarely popular. Captain Thorne sat in the front row, reserved for the senior officers of the battalion. He was wearing his dress uniform, checking his phone, tapping his foot impatiently. He had left the warehouse running under the supervision of the lieutenant, but he hated being away from the floor. He felt this was a wasted time. Who was visiting? Probably some politician looking for a photo op, or a Pentagon general who hadn't seen a warehouse in 20 years. "Any idea what this is about?" Thorne whispered to the major sitting next to him. The major shrugged. "Brigade commander just said it was important, said the new director was doing a tour." Thorne scoffed. "Director? Great. Probably gonna give us a PowerPoint on synergy and leave." The lights in the auditorium dimmed. The chatter died down instantly. The brigade commander, Colonel Holloway, walked onto the stage. He walked to the podium and adjusted the microphone. He looked serious. "At ease," Holloway said. "Take your seats." He looked out over the sea of faces. "We are privileged today to have a visit from our new higher command. She has been touring the region to assess our readiness and our culture. She is a soldier who started in the Supply Corps and worked her way up to command entire logistics divisions. She knows what you do because she has done it." Thorne leaned back, crossing his arms. "She has done it," he thought. "Sure, probably 20 years ago. Please welcome," the colonel continued, "Major General Elena Vance."
The side curtain opened. Captain Thorne sat up. He expected a stranger. He expected someone with an entourage. Instead, a woman walked out. She was wearing the Army service uniform, the dress blues. On her shoulders, the stars of a major general caught the stage lights. Her chest was decorated with ribbons that spoke of multiple deployments, meritorious service, and leadership in combat zones. Thorne froze. The breath stopped in his throat. He recognized the face. He recognized the gray hair pulled back in a bun. He recognized the walk. It was the auditor, the civilian woman in the gray suit, the woman he had brushed off, the woman he had told to go talk to the clerk, the woman he had practically ordered out of his way. His stomach dropped as if he were in a falling elevator. The blood drained from his face. He felt a cold sweat break out on his palms. "Oh no," he thought. "Oh my God." General Vance walked to the podium. She didn't smile. She looked out at the audience, scanning the faces. Her eyes stopped, just for a fraction of a second, on the front row, on Captain Thorne. She didn't glare. She didn't look angry. She just looked knowing.
"Thank you, Colonel," Vance began. Her voice was the same one she had used in the warehouse, calm, steady, authoritative. But now, amplified by the speakers, it carried a weight that filled the room. "I spent the day walking your grounds," she said. "I didn't come with a parade. I came as a visitor. Because when you wear stars, people treat you one way. When you wear a suit, they treat you another. And I wanted to see how you treat the people who can do nothing for you." The room was dead silent. Every soldier was listening. They knew this was going to be good. Thorne wanted to disappear. He wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. He stared straight ahead, terrified to make eye contact. "I saw some incredible things today," Vance continued. "I saw a sergeant major who protects his soldiers. I saw specialists who take pride in their work even when they are exhausted. I saw a unit that knows how to work." She paused. She stepped back from the podium and grabbed the wireless microphone, walking to the edge of the stage. She was closer to the front row now. "But I also saw something else.
I saw the dangerous idea that efficiency is more important than people. I saw leaders who think that because they are busy, they have the right to be rude. I saw officers who think that regulations are suggestions and that courtesy is a waste of time. She walked slowly along the edge of the stage. "Let me tell you something about logistics," she said. "We move boxes, we move fuel, we move ammo, but the most important thing we maintain is trust. If a private cannot trust his captain to listen to him about safety, the mission fails. If a civilian auditor cannot trust an officer to be transparent, the system fails. And if a leader thinks he is too important to be polite, he has already failed." Thorne felt like she was speaking directly into his soul. Every word was a hammer blow. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't naming him. That was almost worse. If she had called him out by name, he could have been angry. But by keeping it anonymous, she was forcing him to sit there and own his shame in private. "Rank," Vance said, her voice dropping to a whisper that reached the back of the room, "is a privilege. It is not a shield. It does not give you the right to belittle others. It gives you the responsibility to serve them. When you wear the uniform, you represent this army, to everyone, to the general and to the stranger walking through your warehouse." She looked at the front row again. "Some of you met me today. Some of you helped me. Some of you dismissed me. I remember all of it." She let the silence hang for 5 long seconds. "Be the leader your soldiers need, not the boss your ego wants to be." "Thank you." She placed the microphone back on the stand. The room erupted in applause. It wasn't polite applause, it was genuine. The junior soldiers were clapping hard. They knew exactly what she was talking about. They lived with it every day. Thorne clapped weakly. His hands felt numb. He knew with absolute certainty that his life was about to change.
The assembly ended. The soldiers filed out, buzzing with energy. "Did you see her? Man, she nailed it. I wonder who she was talking about." Thorne moved slowly toward the exit. He felt heavy. He needed to get outside, to breathe. "Captain Thorne," a voice said. Thorne froze. It was the colonel's aide. "The general requests your presence in the briefing room, immediately." Thorne nodded. "Roger that." He adjusted his uniform. He smoothed his jacket. He put his hat under his arm. He walked toward the briefing room like a man walking to the gallows. When he entered the room, it was empty except for Colonel Holloway and General Vance. Vance was sitting at the head of the table. She had removed her dress jacket and was sitting in her shirt sleeves. She looked human again, but she still looked like the general. Thorne marched to the center of the room, stopped, and rendered a sharp salute. "Captain Thorne, reporting as ordered, ma'am." Vance returned the salute casually. "Take a seat, Captain." Thorne sat. He sat at attention, his back not touching the chair. "Relax, Marcus," Colonel Holloway said. "This isn't a court-martial." Thorne exhaled slightly, but he didn't relax. Vance looked at him. She studied him. "You're a good logistician, Captain," she said. "I looked at your numbers before I came down here. Best throughput in the brigade, lowest loss rate. You know how to run a warehouse." "Thank you, ma'am," Thorne said. "But you don't know how to lead people," she added. The compliment evaporated instantly. "Do you know why I didn't identify myself in the warehouse?" she asked. Thorne swallowed. "To test us, ma'am?" "No," Vance said. "I didn't do it to test you. I did it to see you. There is a difference. If I had walked in with stars, you would have cleared the floor. You would have been polite. You would have smiled. But it would have been a lie. I saw the truth. You treated me like a nuisance because you didn't think I could help you." Thorne looked down at his hands. I was under pressure, ma'am. We were behind schedule. I let the stress get to me. I apologize." "Stress reveals character, Captain. It doesn't excuse it," Vance said. "And it wasn't just me. I heard how you spoke to your lieutenant. I heard you order a violation of driver rest cycles. That is unacceptable." Thorne looked up, surprised. He didn't know she had heard that part. "Ma'am, the mission requirements."
The mission does not require you to break your soldiers, Vance cut him off. Her voice was hard now. Dead drivers don't deliver cargo. Burned-out specialists make mistakes. Your numbers are good, Captain, but your culture is toxic. And eventually, toxic culture eats the numbers, too. She leaned forward. I am not going to fire you, Captain Thorne. It would be easy to relieve you of command, but that would be a waste of your talent, and it wouldn't teach you anything. Thorne waited. He felt a flicker of hope mixed with dread.
Here is what is going to happen, Vance said. For the next 2 weeks, you are relieved of your duties as warehouse OIC. Thorne blinked. Ma'am? You are not going on leave, she continued. You are going to report to Sergeant Major Davis. You are going to work on the floor. You are going to drive a forklift. You are going to load trucks. You are going to sweep the loading dock. You are going to take orders, not give them. And you are going to listen to the people you have been barking at. Thorne was stunned. It was a demotion in practice, if not in rank. It was humbling. You want me to work the line, ma'am? I want you to remember what it feels like, Vance said. I want you to remember that the private with the broom is a human being. I want you to remember that the auditor with the clipboard has a job to do. I want you to find your humility, Captain, because if you can't find it, you have no future in my army. She stood up. The meeting was over. Do we understand each other? Thorne stood up. He looked at the general. He looked at the woman he had dismissed. He realized that she was giving him a second chance he probably didn't deserve. Yes, ma'am, we understand each other. Good, Vance said. Dismissed. Thorne saluted. He turned and walked out of the room. As he walked down the hallway, he didn't feel angry. He didn't feel the arrogance that had carried him through the morning. He felt lighter in a strange way. The illusion that he was the most important person on the base had been shattered, and now he had to go do the work to rebuild himself. The next morning at 0600, Captain Thorne reported to Warehouse 4. He wasn't wearing his office uniform. He was wearing his work fatigues. He wasn't carrying a tablet. He was wearing work gloves. He walked up to the sergeant major. The soldiers on the floor stopped and stared. The captain was here? To work? Reporting for duty, Sergeant Major, Thorne said. The sergeant major looked at him. He saw the change in Thorne's eyes. It wasn't defeat, it was acceptance. Grab a scanner, sir, the sergeant major said, pointing to a stack of boxes. We have a truck to unload in Bay 2. Roger that, Thorne said. He walked over to the privates. Good morning, Thorne said to them. The privates looked shocked. Good morning, sir, one mumbled. Thorne picked up a box. It was heavy, it was hot, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like part of the team, not just a man shouting at it. General Vance had left the base the previous evening. She was already in another state inspecting another unit. She would probably never mention Thorne's name again. But she had left a mark that would last longer than any inspection report. She had taught Fort Greystone that character isn't defined by the rank on your collar. It is defined by how you treat the stranger in the gray suit, the private with the broom, and the person who can do absolutely nothing for you. True strength is quiet. True leadership is humble. And sometimes, the most important lesson you ever learned comes from the person you never expected to teach it. Captain Thorne eventually took command of the warehouse again, but he was different. He was quieter. He listened more. He never cut safety corners again, and whenever a civilian walked into his workspace, no matter how plain or unimportant they looked, he was the first one to walk over, extend his hand, and say, "Good morning, how can I help you?" Because he knew better than anyone that you never know who you are really talking to. Now, I want to turn this over to you. Imagine you were Captain Thorne. Imagine you had just been rude to a stranger, only to find out she was the general who held your career in her hands. How would you have reacted in that briefing room? Would you have made excuses, or would you have accepted the lesson? And more importantly, do you think the general's punishment was fair? Was making him work as a regular soldier the right way to teach him respect, or should she have just fired him? I read every single comment, so please leave your thoughts down below. If this story reminded you of the value of respect and humility, please hit that like button. It helps us share these lessons with more people. And make sure you are subscribed to Military Stories with the bell notification turned on.
We have more stories coming soon about the reality of service, the challenges of command, and the heroes who serve in silence. Thank you for watching. Stay disciplined, stay humble, and I'll see you in the next video.